Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name is Thomas. I'm filling in for Jerry today. He's decided to have a day off, but luckily you've got me instead. I'm very happy to be joined by Terry. How you doing, Terry? How's things?
I'm good, mate. Day off, yeah, Jerry. These part-timers, I mean, you know what I mean? Terrible.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and do my best job of standing for it. It's just the extra time video today. We're not going to have a quiz and everything else. Don't think that's quite my role yet, but we're going to start off. It's Everton 3, Crystal Palace 1. Overall, not a bad performance. Maybe not the best in the second half under pressure for a while, but then obviously getting the goals in the end, that's all you really need. Results more than anything. Just start off, tell you what kind of your overall thoughts about the game and the performance.
Good results. Sort of middling performance. It was sort of, as a team, it wasn't the best performance, but there was good moments in the game and there were good individual performances from a lot of players. You can't be unhappy with another win, can you? Let's be honest. You know, got a good bit of momentum now behind us and put some proper distance between us and the drop zone. And now we're looking at Europe, so fantastic. I'm sure you've got like a list of players you want to talk about. So fire away.
Yeah. So we start off. Obviously, Walcott was good when he for like the 10-minute cameo that he made. Obviously, a great cross. Steve came on, but we've got to mention the sock incident. I don't know how you managed to get onto the bench without a sock on, having to go down the tunnel. But in general, what did you think of the substitution? Because there was a lot of people saying maybe Sidibe kind of ruined the balance of the team. He wasn't exactly great when he came on. What did you really think about that one?
It showed that Carlo has a strict sort of system in mind, and he won't change the system based on the injury. So, like a lot of people probably would have thought that, you know, maybe a Iwobi would come on or Richarlison would go out to the right and Moise Keane would go up front. But no, he brought on the only player he had available to still keep that shape and formation that we'd started with the, you know, the one he's been playing for a while, the tucked in left midfielder with the wide direct right midfielder. Walcott's the only player we've got who naturally fits on that right side in that system. And Sidibe is probably the second best fit, although it's as we saw, it's not a comfortable fit. He works some games and not others. It showed to me that he's not going to change the whole team around based on the personality. The system is the system, and the person will have to work around that.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I mean, obviously, when he came on, him and Walcott obviously kind of different players. Sidibe is he's a lot stronger, he's more athletic, obviously naturally a right back. In theory, Walcott should be quick, agile, which we definitely saw before his cross for Bernard and a great finish by Bernard. But it is frustrating that we don't have another out-and-out right winger, I think. Sidibe. Sidibe probably was the only player he could have brought on. Not really a fan of Iwobi out wide at the moment. He's much more of a central player, I think. And obviously bringing Sidibe on, he's not as quick, but I also thought he could have generally had more impact on the game kind of overall. He does have his strengths, and I don't think we really saw them that much. In terms of Sidibe, just while we're on the topic, I think the rumoured optional fees, 12.5 million. Would you sign him in the summer, or would you just keep Kenny and Coleman?
It's a strange one, really, because I'd like to think, I'd like to see the club potentially go out and have a look for someone who's better all round. I do like Sidibe, though. It's a very, very difficult one. It depends. Depends what we do with Kenny, whether we get an offer for Kenny that we feel is good enough, which I think he will be sold if a good offer comes in. But what is a good offer to some clubs might not be to others. I think if we sign Sidibe, it'll be more a case of other options weren't available or were too expensive. But that's not a bad option to fall back on. He does have his strengths. He's absolutely off his head, though. Like, he's crazy. He has some games where he's awful and some games where he's fantastic. And he's just, he's pressing higher than the centre forward sometimes and just absolutely round the bend. But short answer is, ideally, no. I wouldn't take up the option. I'd like to get someone more of a right-back version of Luca Dean, like that all-round quality full-back who goes in. You can see him there for a long term. I don't see Sidibe as the long-term solution there, but, depends who it is and who's available and for how much.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think with Kenny, I think they will be waiting to see if they get an offer maybe from Schalke or another Bundesliga club potentially, because he has done all right there. He's not been exceptional, but he has been pretty good for the competition that he's in. But I think if 20, 25 million comes in for John Joe Kenny, I think the club will probably be taking it, because as a player, he didn't set the world alight at Everton. It took him a while to break through the academy, really, and then he's obviously gone out alone. As impressive as he has been, it's not like he's been so exceptional that he's got to be our starting right back. But I think that's the problem with kind of Sidibe and Kenny at the moment, is both of them are decent, they're good, but would rather see the club go out and get a much better right back, because I think we can all agree Coleman's pretty much finished now. He can come on, he's a good leader. Obviously, there's all sorts going on in the change room, that's all good. But I think Coleman's a good leader, but I don't think he can be really playing that much anymore. He doesn't have the pace really anymore, and he doesn't get up and down, which was kind of his defining feature. Sidibe he's a decent player. He's versatile. He can play on the right mid or the right back. I think he fits into Ancelotti's system quite well. He's not like a defensive right back. And if you need kind of the marauding right winger, I think he does fit that role. And obviously, if a good enough offer for Kenny comes in, should probably be taking that. But you mentioned Sidibe was crazy there in terms of another crazy player, John Pickford. Another strange mistake today. Obviously, people shouting for Lerso to come into the team. Obviously, he's left now. We just won't bring that up. We don't really know what happened there, whether he had some sort of attitude problems, whether he wanted to leave for game time. We can't be certain. He was meant to be brought in this competition. What do we do with John Pickford? I think he's a brilliant shot stopper, and I think his reflexes are great. We saw that with the Benteke header from just a few yards out. But he does make some rash mistakes sometimes, which you can never really explain. I think we were all kind of hoping he'd calm down after last season. He was still fairly young. He's had a couple of seasons now to kind of develop, but disappointing. I think another silly mistake which could have cost us on a different day. What do you think about him?
It was a bad mistake, but that isn't the reason I think that everyone's got a problem with him. If that mistake in isolation could happen to anyone, it's like the litany of things that are counting against him now. Like nobody at the time really held the Anfield mistake against him. Gets brought up now in the context of everything else, but that wasn't the biggest thing. It was the things like the Newcastle game last season where he was, his head just goes, and was it a game this season? He had another. When did he come out of his goal and he was laughing when he nearly got caught or something like that?
I think he's done that a couple of times, to be fair.
Yeah, Gary Neville on the TV actually said it's not, said, what are you laughing at? It's not funny. Little things like that. But I think at the minute with Pickford, it's a couple of things we're going to have to accept. One, I don't think he is ever going to change his mentality. He's come out swinging in the press today, and basically his whole attitude is, you're all against me, and I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight back, which is admirable in one respect, but it goes to show that he doesn't actually own up or face up that he's doing things wrong, or he's got the wrong attitude towards things. So he is the way he is. He's probably always going to be like that. The mistakes he does, I think, net, like, he saves you more points and more goals than he does give them away net. But I don't know. He's a difficult one. I think we're going to have to accept that he's always going to be this way, and accept that we're not going to replace him in the short term because we're not in a position to. There's too many other positions in the squad that need figuring out. I personally would like to see someone replace Jordan Pickford at this point. I don't think he's progressed since his first season when he was here. I think he was fantastic in his first season in a struggling team, and I don't think he's any better now than he was then. And in fact, I'd say go so far as to say he's actually getting worse with some of the silly things he does. But there's lots of other positions in the pitch which are far more pressing than him. He is still a good, reflex goalkeeper. He makes some fantastic saves like he did again for the Benteke header. So I think he'll either be bought if he has a good World Cup by someone like Man United, say, if De Gea goes or something like that. I think that's not very likely. Or he's our keeper for another 2-3 years, and then hopefully we'll be in a more stable place and we can start thinking about replacing him. But for the short term, he's our keeper, and we're going to have to just accept what he is and just try and push him to be better.
Yeah, definitely. I think for 30 million, I think he cost. I think that's all right value, to be fair, in the market now, especially because he is still a very good technical goalkeeper. His delivery's always been quite good. He's got like a couple of assists every now and then, and like his actual reflexes are just brilliant. He just makes those stupid mistakes, and obviously there was questions asked about his attitude. Obviously, he's just a Markham at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure that's just what they're like. But I personally like Jordan Pickford. I wouldn't want to sell him because he's still fairly youngish, 24, 25. I'm not sure how exactly old he is now, but I think in terms of the value we got from him, I think he's a pretty decent keeper. And obviously, we were all kind of hoping that Lössl would kind of bring in the competition for him. Obviously, that didn't work out at all. Lössl didn't play. He's now gone back to Huddersfield, so he couldn't have been that good in the first place. A weird one there, but obviously Stecklenburg's never going to challenge him for the starting place. But I don't think he necessarily needs to at the moment because when people say that we need a goalkeeper to kind of challenge him, keep him on his toes, I don't think it does anything for a goalkeeper's confidence if as soon as he makes a mistake, another keeper comes in. But the problem is he knows that he will never get dropped. I think that's the problem. But it's an interesting balance to find there. But he is frustrating, but he is still fairly young for a goalkeeper. You know, goalkeepers have so many years in them. Obviously, Buffon's gone to, he's 41 this year. It's ridiculous. But you do find keepers probably coming to their prime later than outfield players. They're a lot better when they know the game better. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I really, as you said, it's not a pressing matter. There's more matters on the pitch, maybe another cover, a centre-back, a proper right winger. So a goalkeeper at the moment, it's really not a problem. I do like him, and obviously I can't see him coming out of the team anytime soon. In terms of another young English player, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's been absolutely brilliant since Ancelotti's come in. You know, he started well under Silva kind of this season, but it was a bit patchy as form, but since Ancelotti's come in, it's brilliant. We're going to talk about the 4-4-2 because that is kind of the initial system Ancelotti starts in. It allows Calvert-Lewin, I think, he was dropping back a lot for the ball. He was getting quite isolated at times in kind of the 4-2-3-1. I think now he's got freedom to stay a bit higher up the pitch. He's happy to win the ball, knock it off to Richarlison, and then make the run into the box. Whereas before he was winning the ball, and then he had to turn around and do it himself, which he's not necessarily that kind of player to kind of dribble past players. He's much more of an out-and-out number 9, I think, more of a poacher. Generally, how important do you think the 4-4-2 has been for Calvert-Lewin, and how good do you think he can be in this system?
I think it's to his career specifically. I think it's to that player specifically. I think it's revitalised his career. I was nearly said it saved his Everton career, but he wasn't in any jeopardy. But he's gone from being basically the crowd's whipping boy to Everton's number 9. He's come on so far with having the two up front, and it is a. It's a formation out of fashion, really, isn't it? Because, you do leave yourself a little bit exposed in centre midfield unless you've got really strong, really, athletic, fast midfielders, which currently we haven't got. But you're starting to see his qualities as a footballer now. Like when he was up front by himself, a lot of the time he's doing the work of two players. He's trying to close the space. He's trying to work the defence. And against the bigger teams, he always had a good game when he was up by himself because, he stood out a mile because he was working the opposition defenders. But when he was against poorer teams and he was getting no help from, usually it would have been Sigurdsson right behind him or literally standing next to him but not working. It was a thankless task. He's not going to get in the positions to score if he's got to do all that. But now that he's in a 4-4-2, Richarlison is so, fast and works so hard that Calvert-Lewin can afford now to stay a little bit more central and get himself in goal-scoring areas. And he's obviously working a lot more with Duncan Ferguson, who's teaching him to be, more of a box-type striker. And he's just finding himself with space and opportunities that he never had before. And he's taken them, and fair play to him. He's had his doubts. He's worked for everything he's got at the club, and now he's seen, like, how many transfer windows have we gone in over the last few years, even since far back as when Lukaku left. We need a striker. We need a striker. We need a striker. Every summer, even when Lukaku was here, I felt like people were saying we need a striker to go with him. And this is the first time I can even think for years that supporters aren't all saying we need a striker, because we look at the strikers we've got now and say, actually, we're all right in that position because Calvert-Lewin is now seen as a first choice senior, quality player in that position. We don't feel like we're light in that position anymore when. Even last season, I think a lot of people would have said we were, just because they didn't have the faith in him, and he's just been brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of the players that I'm really pleased to see come on, because you always felt like he was working hard, but obviously he was just struggling and being an isolated striker in that system. I think in terms of the young English spine we've got at the moment, Holgate and Calvert-Lewin, I mean, how far can they go realistically? It's the Euros in the summer. There's rumours that Holgate's going to be called up to the next England squad, but also with a lot of striking injuries. I think Harry Kane's injured, Marcus Rashford's injured. We'll just end on Calvert-Lewin here. How realistic do you think we could see one of those two players or both of them potentially at the Euros?
I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them both in the next, England squad. Because, there are injuries and, Southgate might want to have a look at them. But barring more injuries, I'd be very surprised to see them go to the Euros, because Southgate strikes me as, he's loyal to a core group of players. And I think it's quite late in the day now to, chop and change unless enforced. So if he gets, players back fit, I don't think either of them will go to the Euros. It'd be fantastic for them if they did, because, and even just to get called up, because as we know, getting called up for England, whatever you as a fan might think of it, the players do like it. The players work hard for it. It's massive for them. It's a huge career milestone, and if they can both keep up their form, they can go on to establish themselves in those two positions as England players. Like, maybe not in time for this tournament, but certainly for ones after, if they can keep up this level of quality that they're putting out. Because that centre back, we're not blessed. Like, there's some decent players. Basically, Maguire and Gomez are the two centre backs, but outside of that, it's anyone's. It's up for anyone. Michael Keane was getting picked not long ago, and as we know, he's terrible. Calvert-Lewin, same. Like, Vardy's retired now. Danny Ings will probably, he's coming to, I don't want to say the end of his career because he's not old, but Calvert-Lewin's got a lot more years on him, that kind of thing, and it's got to be said as well, he's had a better club. If those two do get called up for England, it'll at least show to potential new recruits that we look to bring in the future that if you perform at Everton, the pathway is clear to England. You will be an England player if you perform well as an Englishman at Everton. So I do hope they both get called up, because I think they both earned it.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is about Calvert-Lewin is Southgate seems to favour kind of Harry Kane's obviously the starting striker, he's the England captain. Marcus Rashford kind of in backup, but then he can deploy him on the left wing. So I think he likes a third striker. And with obviously Jamie Vardy having retired, Callum Wilson hasn't exactly pulled up any trees? I don't know if that's the phrase. I started that phrase.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. He hasn't really, done anything this season. I think the last spot probably is between Danny Ings and Calvert-Lewin. But the problem is with Southgate, there's been rumours he does pick players on form. And we could see Welbeck at the Euros. He is a big fan of Welbeck. He likes what he can do, which is frustrating because obviously Welbeck's rubbish and he has been for years. But I think it would be disappointing. I think, to be fair, both Ings and Calvert-Lewin deserve to be going. So I won't be disappointed if Calvert-Lewin doesn't go, but Ings does. I will be disappointed if someone, like Callum Wilson, just someone that Southgate knows goes instead of Calvert-Lewin, because Calvert-Lewin's completely deserving of going, and he does offer kind of he's happy to go up and win the headers. He's much more of an out-and-out striker than Marcus Rashford is. Marcus Rashford is much more of a technical kind of winger, I think. So I think he does offer something else, but this isn't just the Calvert-Lewin chat. This was the extra time Everton 3, Crystal Palace 1. We are very happy with the result. Thank you for coming on, Terry. It's been a pleasure as always. Be sure to check out Terry's social media under his face, one of these sides. Be sure to check out mine, all the Toffee Blues social media in the description. And thank you very much for watching. And goodbye.